I met Lena on a rainy afternoon in a quiet bookstore. She was standing by the poetry section, flipping through a worn-out book, her delicate fingers tracing the pages as if they held secrets only she could understand. There was something effortlessly elegant about her. Her long dark hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders, and her simple beige dress clung to her slender frame. She looked up, caught me staring, and smiled. "Do you read poetry, or are you just pretending to impress me?" she teased, her voice light, playful. I chuckled, stepping closer. Maybe both. That was how it started, our love, or at least what I thought was love. Lena wasn't like the other women I had dated before. She never asked for expensive gifts or extravagant dates. Instead, she preferred simple things, long walks, quiet dinners at small street-side cafes, and watching the sunset by the lake. She laughed easily, never demanded anything, and always said she was happy with whatever I could give. "You're the only luxury I need," she whispered one night as we lay under the stars. I believed her. Months passed, and my love for her deepened. She was perfect. She was kind, supportive, and never complained about my struggles. I was still working my way up in my job, and my salary wasn't anything special. But Lena never made me feel like I needed to be rich for her to love me. I started planning my proposal. It wasn't going to be anything grand, just an intimate dinner, the two of us, with a ring and a promise. I wanted it to be a surprise, so I spent weeks finding the perfect moment. Finally, on our anniversary, I booked a private rooftop dinner. The city lights shimmered below as I led her to the candlelit table. Lena gasped, eyes wide. "You did all this?" "For you," I said, holding her hands. She smiled, but there was something unreadable in her expression. When dessert arrived, I took a deep breath, stood up, and pulled out the small velvet box. "Lena," I said, my voice trembling slightly, "you're the most incredible woman I've ever met. I love you with all my heart. Will you marry me?" For a moment, she just stared at me. Then she let out a soft sigh and leaned back in her chair. I expected tears, excitement, a breathless yes. Instead, she spoke in a calm, measured tone. "Do you have $880,000? I blinked, not sure I heard her right. "What?" She placed her hands on the table, fingers interlocked. "I need $880,000 to accept your proposal." I laughed, thinking it was a joke. "Come on, Lena, don't mess with me." But she didn't laugh. She didn't even smile. Her expression remained serious, as if she were discussing the weather. "I'm not joking," she said softly. "If you want to marry me, you need to have that money." The air around us felt heavy. My chest tightened. "This isn't you," I whispered. "You never cared about money." She sighed again, this time with a trace of sadness. "I never said I didn't care. I just never asked." I stared at her, searching for the woman I had fallen in love with. She had always been simple, down to earth. This didn't make sense. "Why?" I finally asked. She hesitated before answering. "I have my reasons." I clenched my fists, frustration bubbling inside me. "That's not an answer, Lena. If you love me, why are you putting a price on our future?" She lowered her gaze. "Love isn't enough, Daniel." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So, all this time, was it a lie? "No," she said quickly, meeting my eyes again. "I love you. But I also have expectations for my life. And I won't settle." I felt like the ground beneath me had cracked open. My Lena, sweet, humble Lena, had just turned into someone I didn't recognize. "You're breaking my heart," I whispered. For the first time that night, her eyes softened. "I don't want to," she said. "But I won't lie to you either. This is what I need." I stood up, feeling a cold emptiness inside me. "Then I guess we don't have a future?" Lena didn't stop me as I walked away. But as I stepped into the elevator, I caught one last glimpse of her through the glass walls. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring at the candle in front of her, expression unreadable. I wanted to believe that she felt the same pain I did. The days after the proposal felt like a blur. I went from feeling like the luckiest man in the world to questioning everything I knew about love. How could Lena do this to me? How could she look me in the eye and put a price on our future? I ignored her calls, her messages. My pride wouldn't let me reach out. She had broken my heart, and I wanted to believe that I was done with her. But no matter how much I tried to push her away, she remained a shadow in my mind. One night, after drowning my frustration in a few drinks, I found myself standing outside her apartment. I told myself I wasn't here to beg. I just needed answers. I knocked once, then twice. Lena opened the door, her eyes widening in surprise. She was wearing a simple, oversized sweater, her hair slightly messy, as if she had just woken up. She looked normal. Not like a woman who had just demanded $880,000 to marry me. "Daniel," she breathed. "Why?" I asked, skipping the small talk. "I need to know." She swallowed, her fingers gripping the edge of the door. "Come in." I hesitated, then stepped inside. The familiar scent of vanilla filled the air, the same scent I had always associated with her warmth. She gestured toward the couch, but I didn't sit. "Talk," I said, crossing my arms. Lena sighed and sat down, resting her elbows on her knees. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said softly. "Then why did you?" She looked up at me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite read. Guilt? Sadness? Regret? "I need that money, Daniel," she admitted. "Not because I don't love you. Not because I want to test you. But because I don't have a choice." I frowned. "What does that mean?" She hesitated before speaking. "My family is in debt. A huge debt. My father made some bad decisions with his business, and now they're at risk of losing everything. The house, the store, everything." I stared at her, stunned. "And you were just going to sell yourself to the highest bidder?" Her face twisted in pain. "That's not what I'm doing." "Isn't it?" I shot back. "If I had said yes to your demand, would you have married me just for the money?" She shook her head. "I would have married you because I love you. But I also needed to know if you could handle what comes with being with me. I didn't want to drag you into my family's problems if you weren't ready." I let out a bitter laugh. "So you tested me? You put a price on our love to see if I was ready?" Lena exhaled, rubbing her temples. "I know how it sounds. But I've seen what financial struggles can do to a marriage, Daniel. I watched my mother suffer because of my father's bad decisions. I promised myself that if I ever got married, I wouldn't make the same mistake." I ran a hand through my hair, feeling my anger and heartbreak mix into something more complicated. "Why didn't you just tell me?" She looked up, her eyes glistening. "Because I was scared you'd leave." I shook my head, my chest tightening. "But you lost me anyway." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I know. Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. For the first time, I didn't know what to say. A part of me understood her fear. A part of me even admired her strength. But another part still felt betrayed. I loved you for who you were, I finally said. Not for what you could give me or what I could give you. She wiped her tear away and smiled weakly. And I loved you enough to want to protect you from my world. I took a shaky breath. Do you still love me? She nodded. More than anything. I should have walked away. I should have told her that love wasn't something you tested, that trust once broken was hard to rebuild. But despite everything, I still loved her too. I sat down beside her, taking her hand in mine. I don't have $880,000, I whispered. Lena let out a soft, broken laugh. I never expected you to. I looked into her eyes and saw the woman I had fallen in love with, the one who made me laugh, who made me feel safe, who made my world brighter. And I knew that no matter what, I didn't want to lose her. We'll figure this out together, I said. She squeezed my hand, hope flickering in her gaze. Together? I nodded. But no more secrets, Lena. No more tests. She leaned in, pressing her forehead against mine. No more secrets. I kissed her, slow and deep, feeling the weight of the past few days melt away. She was flawed, complicated, and frustratingly stubborn. But she was also the love of my life. And love, I realized, wasn't about the price. It was about the fight. And I was ready to fight for her.